When a woman finally learns to hold her emotions like sacred fire in her palms, not letting them spill into places unworthy of her warmth, something ancient awakens inside her. She no longer begs for love, not because she doesn't want it, but because she remembers she is it. She doesn't plead for attention. She radiates such wholeness that love cannot help but return. Not through magic, but through presence, through psychology, through feminine power reborn. And sister, tell me, have you ever felt like you were discarded without ceremony, replaced like yesterday's memory? A sudden absence, a silence from him, and an ache you can't explain. That hollow moment when you ask, why wasn't I enough? But hear me, this is not your end. This is the edge of your rebirth. The version of you that will rise from this space of nothingness. She will be so powerful that even silence will bow before her. Right now, you stand at a threshold. You have two paths: to diminish yourself trying to win back someone who couldn't even see your light, or to rise. Most women, out of fear, out of habit, choose the first. They chase. They send message after message as if their phone is a lifeline, not a tool. Each "please talk to me" chips away at dignity. Each "why did you leave" becomes a wound. Sister, when we act from desperation, we don't just lose love, we lose ourselves. We become the flame that burns itself out trying to warm someone who's already gone cold. But there's another way, a higher way, and it begins now. This video isn't for emotional beggars, it's for the woman ready to rise, not by fighting harder, but by letting go with elegance and silence. You don't need a library of self-help books. You don't need to become some Zen master. You need one thing: courage. The courage to not do what you've always done. The courage to stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop trying to convince someone to see your worth. Because the woman who no longer begs for love becomes a source of it. Her silence echoes, her absence stings, her stillness becomes a message: I am enough even without you. And when you hold that truth in your spine, your very presence speaks volumes. That's when even your past begins to look back, startled by your evolution. It's never been about him. It's about you. Your return to your own center. Your reintroduction to the woman you were before the world told you that you needed someone else to feel whole. Because here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing him is the moment he starts to feel your absence like a wound. Lesson 1. Emotional silence. This silence isn't cold. It isn't passive. It's not ignoring to manipulate. It's the loudest declaration of self-worth you will ever make. Because the more you speak, the more you try to be understood, the more invisible you become. Silence, on the other hand, creates mystery, space, power. And when a man is used to your constant presence, your consistent texts, your "are you okay" messages, your sudden quiet becomes a storm in his mind. That silence begins to haunt him, not because you said anything, but because you didn't. And here's what most don't realize. Desperation, no matter how disguised, has a scent. It's a fragrance that repels. But when you become still, when you take your energy back, something shifts. He doesn't know what happened. He just knows the world feels different without your light in it. Your silence doesn't scream. It lingers. It makes him question everything. Did she stop caring? Is she moving on? And that, sister, is the moment the power dynamic begins to shift. Not by force, but by space. Imagine walking through a crowded, noisy street every day. Then one day, nothing, just silence. You notice. You stop. You feel it. That's how psychological detachment works. It's not disappearance, it's presence in absence. Even the Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, "First understand what you want to say, then speak." But sometimes the deepest truths are not spoken. They're felt. And when you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your worth, he begins to create his own story. Is she with someone else? Did she forget me? Was I wrong to leave? That's not coincidence. That's emotional chess. And silence is your queen. Women who master this don't do it for revenge. They do it for resurrection. You see, when a woman who always replied within seconds suddenly disappears, she creates a vacuum. And humans, by nature, hate emptiness. That man who once took your attention for granted begins to feel unsettled. No more likes, no more late-night thinking of you texts. No more validation. He doesn't miss you. He misses the version of himself that you reflected back. And suddenly, you become an unanswered question. A haunting, what if let me tell you a true story? She was blocked everywhere. Instagram, WhatsApp, even email. What did she do? Nothing. No breakdown. No public cry for help. No desperate voice notes. No apology paragraphs. She went silent. She turned inward. She redirected all that energy into her own evolution, her health, her goals, her confidence. 2 months later, he came crawling back. With what? A weak excuse. I had a dream about you. But that wasn't a dream. That was the echo of her presence, still dancing in his subconscious. Because silence doesn't just leave a mark, it reconstructs your soul and makes them feel what they thought they never would. Regret. While she said nothing, she was rebuilding everything. Her spirit, her vision, her boundaries. Because she realized she had been shrinking, pouring all her light into someone who didn't even hold a cup to receive it. And the moment she chose herself, fully, fiercely, everything shifted. Her walk changed. Her voice softened with confidence. Her eyes glowed not from pain, but from knowing. And that, sister, that kind of energy? It's magnetic. It travels. Even oceans can't block it. Silence isn't passive. It's charged with meaning. It's a countdown, a quiet revolution. So if you feel the urge to text him today, don't. Not a meme. Not a good morning. Not a breadcrumb of your attention. Not to punish him, but to honor you. Make your silence sacred. Each day you don't reach out, let it be 10 steps deeper into your evolution. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you're telling your soul, I'm listening now. And here's what most forget. Every desperate message, every over-explaining text isn't just a communication, it's a confession. A silent cry, I need you to define my worth. But worth, sister, doesn't come from his reply. It comes from your reminder to yourself that you were whole long before he arrived. Strategic silence isn't withdrawal, it's realignment. It's hard at first, like a fast from emotional addiction. But just like any soul cleanse, the discomfort fades. And what remains is clarity, and clarity in the hands of a healed woman is unstoppable. There comes a moment when you stop reaching outward and begin returning inward. A moment when your soul whispers louder than your voice, and in that silence, something sacred takes place. You become centered, transformed. Your energy is no longer a plea, it's a presence. It no longer begs to be seen. It declares itself through stillness. And this quiet power, it's impossible to ignore. People feel it even if they don't understand it. It's as if you've stepped into a new frequency, one that silently says, I am whole, I am complete, I am not waiting for anyone to fill me. So stop trying to convince him with paragraphs, with explanations, with carefully written messages soaked in emotion. Let your absence say everything your words never could. Silence has a gravity. It pulls, it stirs, it unsettles. Because silence is not empty. It is filled with meaning, with strength, with sovereignty. The one who remains silent commands. The one who chases loses. And the one who grows quietly, she becomes unforgettable. Stop screaming in places where no one listens, where your voice is only an echo bouncing off indifference. Instead, create a silence so crisp, so undeniable, that it forces him to stop, to look back, to feel the void where your presence used to live. Because absence, when rooted in self-worth, becomes the most powerful voice of all. Lesson 2. Reverse psychology without manipulation. This isn't about playing games, it's about understanding energy. When you pull away, not with malice, not with spite, but with clarity and purpose, something shifts. He begins to move closer. Have you ever noticed that? The moment you emotionally detach, he suddenly appears, as if summoned by a silence you didn't intend to be so loud. Here's where most falter. They think detachment equals indifference, that if you don't show emotion, you're cold. But true detachment is not about becoming numb. It's about becoming free. And with that freedom comes influence, because when you withdraw your attention, you break a pattern. You disrupt the predictable. You remove yourself from the equation he thought he understood. And that not knowing. That's powerful. The male brain, in particular, doesn't like open loops. It hates voids. It wants to solve the unknown. Attention creates habit, and when you were consistent, accessible, and emotionally present, he became used to it. But now you're gone, and that absence isn't just silence. It's a new language, a message without words, and it says, I am no longer emotionally where you left me. When you vanish from his emotional landscape, even if he can't, it's not silence wrapped in anger. It's about wisdom. It's about stepping back with grace and saying, you didn't see me when I stood close. So now, let me show you the power of my distance. And this isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the understanding that sometimes a person must feel your absence in order to realize the value of your presence. You're not doing this out of pride. You're doing this because you finally understand your worth. And that understanding comes with boundaries. Anyone who needs to lose you to learn to value you should never have held your heart so carelessly in the first place. It's like taking sugar away from someone who's only ever known sweetness in their morning coffee. At first, they don't understand what's missing. They just know the taste has changed. That something feels off. And even if they won't admit it, they miss it. That contrast, that unexpected shift, triggers a deep response in the male psyche. The hunting instinct. That ancient pull that drives them to pursue what is no longer within reach. And listen carefully. It's not about manipulation. It's about nature. When something begins to retreat, when someone becomes emotionally unavailable, the response isn't weakness. It's instinct. It's biology. Because men, especially, are wired by evolution to seek what becomes scarce, to conquer what suddenly feels unreachable. Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And in this context, it means you don't lower yourself. You don't react with tears or tantrums. You rise, you recalibrate, you move with such purpose that your absence becomes unforgettable. No more begging, no more bargaining, you simply become stronger, focused, undisturbed. And that grace, that composure, it rattles everything they thought they knew about you. Reverse psychology isn't about trickery, it's about shifting the power dynamic. Think about it. When someone chases you, you hold the control. You decide whether to respond, whether to allow access, whether to open the door or leave it closed. But if you were always the one who showed up first, who messaged, who checked in, then suddenly, without explanation, you vanish. Guess what happens? He starts asking, where is she? Why isn't she reaching out? What changed? That shift in energy does more than any long speech ever could. It creates tension, and that tension is the soil where realization begins to grow. You don't need to remind him of your worth. He starts to feel it in the space where you used to be. Let me tell you a story. A girl once poured her heartbreak into poems, tagged him in songs, left breadcrumbs in stories until one day she stopped. Not out of spite, but because she turned inward. She started going to the gym. She built her business. She disappeared emotionally. And 2 weeks later, while he was with another woman, he messaged her with a simple, "Are you okay?" But that "are you okay" carried weight. It wasn't just about concern, it was a signal, a silent confession. "I've noticed. I feel your absence. Something's changed." Because transformation doesn't need to announce itself. It speaks through energy, through actions, through silence. When you shift, when you emotionally remove yourself from the places that no longer nourish you, you create an imbalance. And the human brain, especially the male brain, hates imbalance. It will do anything to restore what once felt stable, even if that stability was taken for granted. That's the secret. You don't chase, you don't beg. You reposition. No glances, no questions, no analyzing his stories. You become a ghost, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You fill your time with growth. You turn each day into a quiet revolution, and your absence becomes a mirror, reflecting back everything he failed to see when you were there. This isn't about ignoring, it's about elevating. And that elevation? That's where the game changes. This repositioning isn't just about disappearing from his feed, it's about reorganizing your entire internal world. It's about saying, with actions louder than any voice, "I'm no longer where you left me." You've realigned your thoughts, rewritten your priorities, reclaimed your emotional independence. You're not that woman waiting for a message anymore. You're the one out there living, building, healing, walking her own path, and that, sister, is magnetic. That kind of energy doesn't whisper for validation, it radiates with certainty. You don't need to be remembered. You're becoming unforgettable. Because this version of you, the one that no longer begs, the one who chose herself, is the one he never expected but will never forget. You're not an option anymore. You're the woman who rewrote her story. And now you're the one being chosen. Lesson 3, the power of emotional scarcity. Here's a truth few understand. What is rare becomes valuable, and what is abundant, it loses its edge. This isn't just about love, it's about human psychology. It's about value. The more accessible you are, the more invisible you become. People don't cherish what they can always have. They crave what they can't predict, what they can't control. Think about it. When you were always the first to message, when you checked in, cared deeply, showed up consistently, he may have appreciated it at first, but eventually it became routine. Familiar, background noise. Like the air we breathe, essential, yes, but unacknowledged until it's gone. The moment you take your energy away, really take it away, a storm brews in his subconscious. A wave of questions crashes into him. Why isn't she here? What happened? Did I lose her? That uncertainty, that silence, it's more powerful than any confession of love, because now you're no longer part of his rhythm. You're a disruption, a mystery, and humans, especially men, are wired to chase mystery. The silence that speaks louder. There comes a moment when a woman stops explaining herself, when words feel like dust, scattered in the wind. She realizes that true transformation is never spoken. It is lived. This inner shift doesn't scream for attention. It radiates in quiet waves. It's the kind of silence that doesn't just speak, it commands. Like the calm before a storm, like the stillness of a sacred temple. You feel it more than you hear it. When you stop trying to convince him with long messages, with explanations, with emotional outbursts, something profound happens. You begin to broadcast a new frequency, one that says, I am whole, even without your recognition. That energy, that inner stillness, speaks louder than anything you could ever say. You stop chasing, and in that stillness, you become the one worth chasing. Let your silence echo in places where you were once dismissed. Don't scream in rooms that never listened. Leave those rooms entirely. And in doing so, watch how your absence begins to write the story you never could. Because the one who chases eventually burns out. The one who begs forgets her worth. But the one who withdraws to grow, to evolve, becomes unforgettable. Reverse psychology without manipulation. You've probably felt it, the sudden ping of a message just when you've detached emotionally. Not coincidence, it's the silent magnetism of absence. But this isn't about trickery, it's not manipulation, it's about shifting the rhythm of energy. Most people confuse detachment with coldness, but in truth, detachment is the highest form of influence. It's self-possession. When you're no longer always available, when you're not the first to text, to check in, to ask, something stirs in his mind. You've changed the emotional equation. He no longer holds the script. You've stepped out of the predictable. And what's unknown creates tension. The mind hates a vacuum, and the male mind, conditioned by centuries of instinct, hates unpredictability even more. This is reverse psychology in its purest form. Not games, not pretense, but powerful self-respect. You don't disappear to hurt him, you disappear to heal yourself. That's what makes it real. When you withdraw, you transform. Emotional withdrawal isn't about punishing someone, it's about reclaiming yourself. When you pull back, not out of anger but out of wisdom, you initiate a shift in the dynamic that can't be reversed. He feels it, even if he can't explain it. Like sweet coffee without sugar, something essential is missing. You were once present like background music, always playing, always available. But when the music stops, the silence is deafening. He may not say it aloud, but his world shifts. He looks around, wondering, where did she go? And not just physically, but emotionally. And it's in that space, in that vacuum, that your power grows. You're no longer reacting, you're choosing. Not from bitterness, but from clarity. You're not ghosting him to prove a point. You're proving to yourself that your peace matters more than his confusion. Absence awakens the hunt. There's a primal energy that awakens in men when something once easily accessible becomes distant. That shift, that tension between what once was and what now isn't, flips a switch deep in his subconscious. You don't need to yell. You don't need to chase. Evolution already wrote the code. The more inaccessible something becomes, the more it fascinates us. When you stop giving freely, not out of spite, but out of self-value, he feels it. Your presence, once a constant stream, now becomes a distant melody. And he leans in, straining to hear it again. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that's your power. You don't mimic pain, you transcend it. You don't retaliate, you evolve. Your silence doesn't punish, it elevates. And in doing so, you become the one he can't forget. Calm is your new power. You are no longer performing. No more dramatic exits, no more fiery texts, just quiet distance, fueled by inner growth. You're not interested in chaos anymore. You're building a new world, one where your peace is non-negotiable. He doesn't know how to react because you've changed the entire framework. You're not reactive. You're intentional, and that throws off anyone who once thrived on your emotional availability. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. You've stopped fighting for scraps of attention. Now you're the table. Control is not about dominance, it's about direction. And now you decide who gets access to your space, your energy, your heart. The shift that makes him wonder, when you vanish from his emotional radar, something shifts. And not just in him, but in the air. It's like a song suddenly stopped mid-note. That silence is louder than anything you ever said. It echoes in the places he didn't know you filled. And now, without warning, he starts asking questions he never considered. Where is she? Why isn't she texting? Did I lose her for real? These questions don't come from logic. They rise from discomfort, from absence. And that discomfort, that's power. That's your energy, making waves in the places your voice no longer reaches. You stopped trying to be heard, now you're felt. When transformation speaks without words, he might reach out with a simple message, "Are you okay?" But understand this, that message is a smoke signal. It's the unconscious response to emotional imbalance. He senses something's changed, even if he can't explain it. You didn't just go quiet, you evolved. You filled the space he once occupied with self-worth, goals, and movement. You didn't slam the door, you built a new home without him in it. And the beauty of that transformation, it's unspoken. It's in your posture, your aura, your glow. He can feel the shift, not through the screen, but in the energy. And nothing is more magnetic than a woman who grows quietly, fiercely, without seeking applause. The power of emotional repositioning. You're no longer where he left you. Not physically, emotionally, psychologically. And that, sister, is the real move. The silence you now walk with is not absence. It is repositioning. It's you rising from the floor where you once cried, standing up not in vengeance, but in victory. You've stopped orbiting his world and started becoming your own sun. And when you walk in this way, with quiet grace, with no need for updates or explanations, he starts to feel something he never prepared for, loss, and not just of you, but of the version of himself that felt in control. Your independence isn't rebellion, it's rebirth. The law of scarcity. Sometimes we are like the bread placed daily on the table, constant, present, expected. So familiar that we fade into the background. But the day it's no longer there, suddenly it becomes all anyone can think about. They wonder why it's gone, where it went, and why they never truly noticed it before. This isn't a sad story. It's not bitterness speaking. It's a quiet truth, the law of scarcity. It's not just a theory. It's a rhythm encoded into human nature. Economists study it, psychologists affirm it, and women who have walked through fire live it. When something becomes rare, it becomes sacred. Its value multiplies, not because it changed, but because others finally opened their eyes. Your love, your presence, your kindness, they are not infinite resources. When given endlessly without pause, they're taken for granted. But once withdrawn, once preserved for your own soul, the silence becomes thunder. Esco said it with painful clarity. We don't appreciate what we have until it's gone. But listen closely. The woman who becomes scarce isn't doing it to manipulate. She's doing it to reclaim her center, to step out of the chaos and into alignment. She doesn't scream for validation. She doesn't demand recognition. She simply returns home, to herself. Presence and absence. Her presence was once overlooked, taken as a given, like the sun rising or the heartbeat of a song. But when she disappeared, not angrily, not noisily, her absence echoed louder than her words ever did. This isn't limited to love. This is the soul's economy. In every human relationship, time and attention are currencies, and the ones who spend them with discernment command respect. Look around. Who are the most admired? The ones who are not always available. The ones who don't offer themselves to every request, every message, every fleeting need. It's not arrogance. It's energetic intelligence. Selectivity creates mystery. Mystery creates desire. That woman, the one who used to stay up late, over-explain, over-give, she stopped. She started investing in her own life. She began posting her growth, her glow, her unfolding story. Not for revenge, but as a testament to her evolution. She didn't send cryptic texts, didn't throw shade.